Welcome to the deep dive. Anyone who's read C.S. Lewis knows he weaves this incredible tapestry of thought.
Absolutely. It spans everything from, dense philosophy to really sharp satire and even incredibly raw personal journals about suffering.
And that's what we're diving into today. We want to explore that whole universe of his ideas.
Exactly. Our goal really is to sift through all of it. The big arguments in Mere Christianity, the clever darkness of the Screwtape Letters, even the gut-wrenching honesty of a grief-observed bark, and pull out the core insights, the practical stuff about human nature, about how we live.
Right, like finding Lewis's blueprint for living as a thinking person. How do we get from objective truth to, I suppose, our ultimate purpose?
And he starts somewhere quite grounded, doesn't he?
Yeah, not with some grand theory, but with something, frankly, kind of annoying. Quarreling. Okay, let's unpack that. His starting point is basically that the very act of arguing proves there's some kind of universal moral standard. Not because we follow it, but precisely because we don't, and then argue about it. I mean, think about it. Anytime you're in an argument, maybe with a neighbor or someone at work, and you say, that's not fair, what are you actually doing?
You're appealing to something, aren't you? Some kind of underlying rule. A standard of fair play, what Lewis calls the law of human nature.
And you assume the other person recognizes it too, even if they're breaking it.
Precisely. It's a really profound point Lewis makes. He says, look, if humans didn't basically agree on what right and wrong are, our fights would just be like animals scrapping over food. Pure instinct.
But we don't just fight, we quarrel. We use words like fair, unjust, ought.
Right. We appeal to a standard that goes beyond just wanting something. And this moral law, Lewis stresses, isn't about describing what we do because, let's be honest, we all break it constantly.
All the time.
It's about what we ought to do. It's like the hidden grammar of morality.
Okay, but here's the pushback, right? The modern materialist view. Couldn't this law of human nature just be, a fancy evolutionary instinct, a survival mechanism, cooperate or die out?
Lewis tackles that head on. He says there's a key difference. The law of human nature is unique because it's the only part of reality we observe from the inside.
What do you mean from the inside?
Well, when we study planets or, say, chemical reactions, we're external observers looking at facts, at how things behave. But when we look inside ourselves, we don't just observe our behavior. We feel a command, an ought, an impulse we often struggle against.
Ah, okay. So it's the difference between description and prescription. Gravity describes how things fall, but morality prescribes how we should act.
Exactly. That's the distinction. And this leads Lewis to his two big hypotheses about where the universe comes from.
Hypothesis 1.
The materialist view. Basically, it's all a cosmic fluke. Matter, energy, chance, maybe some chemicals in the right temperature, and poof, eventually, thinking creatures pop up randomly.
And hypothesis 2.
The religious view. That what's behind the universe isn't just random stuff, but something more like a mind, conscious, with purposes. And it made the universe, perhaps intending to produce creatures like itself, creatures with minds.
So if science can only observe the stuff inside the universe, how can we possibly choose between these two views? Science observes, it doesn't judge purpose.
Lewis's point exactly. You can't figure it out just by looking at stars or atoms. That's external observation. The only inside information you have is that voice inside you, the moral law.
The ought.
That inner command. And Lewis argues that's precisely the kind of clue you'd expect to find if there was a controlling power making itself known but doing it within us.
So science studies the house, but the moral law is like getting a message directly from the architect.
That's a great way to put it. It's the one place we might get a hint about the controller that isn't just scientific data.
Okay, so if we accept this, moral law exists, even if only as an internal compass. The immediate glaring question is why we're so incredibly bad at following it. We know the ought, but we live in the eyes.
Yeah, the disconnect is obvious. And this is where Lewis really drills down into what he sees as the fundamental flaw, the ultimate spiritual roadblock. He famously explored this in the Screwtape Letters from a demon's perspective.
You're talking about pride.
Pride. The great sin, he calls it. Not just a sin, but the root. He argues it's the only purely spiritual vice, the one that sets you directly against God and against your neighbor.
And what's unique about it, according to Lewis?
It's competitiveness. This is key. Pride doesn't get pleasure simply from having something, wealth, intelligence, looks, whatever. It only gets pleasure from having more of it than the next person.
Hang on. Is that different from just, say, being envious? Like if I want my neighbor's fancy car, that feels like simple wanting.
Lewis draws a sharp line there. Other vices, maybe like greed or lust, can become competitive by accident. Two people might want the same slice of cake or the same promotion. But pride is essentially competitive. The buzz isn't the thing itself, it's the comparison, the being better than. If everyone was equally rich or smart, pride would have nothing to feed on.
Right. It needs the hierarchy. It needs the lesser than to feel greater than.
Exactly. It's inherently about comparison and ranking. And that, Lewis says, puts us in competition not just with each other, but ultimately in a state of rebellion against God, trying to be our own source of value.
And there's that practical irony. He points out the prouder you are, the more you absolutely hate seeing pride in other people.
Absolutely. It's insufferable in others. Lewis says if you want a quick check on your own pride level, just notice how you react when someone else snubs you or interrupts you or tries to be the center of attention.
That stings because it's true.
It's what he calls the spiritual cancer. It just eats away at love, contentment, even basic common sense.
Which leads us straight into probably the hardest question for anyone considering the religious view. If there's a good, controlling mind behind everything, why does it allow so much suffering? Why pain?
Yeah, the problem of pain, Lewis doesn't minimize it at all. He faced immense suffering himself, but he offers a different perspective on its function.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't just say it's a mystery.
No, he suggests that for creatures like us, inherently prone to pride and rebellion against that moral law, pain often serves a corrective purpose, a remedial one.
How so?
He uses that striking metaphor. Pain plants the flag of truth within a rebel fortress. It shatters our illusions of self-sufficiency.
It's God's megaphone, he says somewhere else.
Exactly. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world.
It's the reality check, the thing that forces us to confront that we aren't actually in control.
Precisely. Lewis observed this in his own life, especially during wartime. He said a sudden crisis just sends the whole pack of cards tumbling down. It forces you, maybe slowly, maybe reluctantly, back towards a state of dependence and humility you should have been in all along.
And he sees positive side effects, too, beyond just breaking down pride.
Yes, things like fear and pity. Pity especially, he thinks, is crucial. It helps us connect with others. It makes it easier to love people who aren't naturally, agreeable to us.
To love them just because they're fellow humans, fellow sufferers, maybe?
Right. To love men not because they are naturally agreeable to us, but because they are our brethren. Pain can cultivate that kind of empathy.
Okay, so if suffering can be a corrective, a way to sort of realign us with reality, maybe even with God, what about our other deep connections, our human loves? They cause immense pain, too.
Absolutely. And Lewis analyzed this deeply, particularly in the four loves. He looks at affection, friendship, romantic love, all these natural human bonds.
Which he sees as good things, presumably. Gifts.
Definitely gifts, wonderful things. But, and this is a huge but for Lewis, they carry an inherent danger, a severe one.
Which is?
They can try to become gods. Our natural loves for family, friends, a partner can demand the kind of unconditional allegiance, the absolute priority that Lewis says should only be given to God.
So when we make a human relationship the ultimate source of meaning in our lives,
that's when the trouble starts. When we demand that kind of ultimate status from them, Lewis warns they stop being gifts and become demons. They become destructive, both to us and to the relationship itself. They can't bear that weight.
And this isn't just theoretical for him, is it? This danger, this potential for pain and love, he lived it out very publicly, in a way.
You're thinking of A Grief Observed.
Yes.
That book is just devastatingly honest. It documents his experience after his wife, Joy David Heisman, died.
It really lays bare that vulnerability you were talking about.
It does. And it's such a powerful book because Lewis essentially gives you, the reader, permission to be angry, to question everything, even God, during intense grief.
He doesn't hold back on the intellectual crisis it caused him.
Not at all. He recounts the specific situation, knowing she had cancer when they married, the unexpected remission, the brief years they had, which he called just a taste of marriage. And when she died, it wasn't just sadness. It was a full-blown spiritual and intellectual emergency. He literally reasoned it out on the page. If these agonies of grief aren't necessary, then either there's no God or God is fundamentally bad.
That's dark.
It is. But the flip side was, if there is a good God, then somehow these tortures must be necessary. Necessary for him, for his own soul's journey. It's brutal logic, born from pain.
That really flies in the face of the sort of sentimental idea that intense grief is just a beautiful tribute or something.
Completely. He directly challenges that. He says something like, passionate grief does not link us with the dead, but cuts us off from them.
How does he mean that?
He felt the overwhelming grief turn joy into an object of his pain, a symbol of loss, rather than allowing him to connect with the memory of the actual person and the joy they shared. It sort of eclipses the reality of the person.
So the wrestling, the questioning, was part of him trying to get back to the reality of her and of God.
I think so. He had to confront the possibility that embracing love fully means embracing the risk of this level of pain, and that somehow even that pain could be part of a larger necessary process.
So given all this, our tendency towards pride, the danger of our natural loves becoming idols, the reality of pain,
Yeah.
how does Lewis suggest we actually move forward? How do we cultivate genuine love or faith if our feelings are so unreliable?
This is where Lewis gets incredibly practical again. He makes a crucial distinction between charity, which is like divine, self-giving love, and just having warm feelings.
Right, because feelings come and go.
Exactly. So his advice is quite direct. Do not waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did.
Act the part, fake it till you make it.
It sounds a bit like that, but it's deeper. He believed the actions often precede and cultivate the feelings. If you consistently behave towards someone with kindness and respect, as if you loved them, you often will come to love them genuinely.
So the action shapes the emotion, not the other way around.
That's the idea. It flips the script. You don't wait until you feel loving. You start by doing loving things. And the opposite is true, too, he says.
How so?
If you nurse a grudge and act unkindly towards someone you dislike, you'll find you dislike them even more. Our actions feed our feelings.
That takes the pressure off trying to manufacture some perfect emotion inside. It puts the focus on behavior, on moral effort.
Precisely. Love, in this sense, particularly charity, is something you do, something you practice. It's built through conscious choices and actions.
Okay, so that moral effort, that acting as if, seems central. Which brings us, I think, to the big picture, the culmination of Lewis's thought. What's the ultimate point of this whole struggle with the moral law, with pride, with suffering and love? What's the destination?
For Lewis, the ultimate purpose, the whole point of Christianity really, isn't just about following rules or even just being forgiven. It's an offer to be fundamentally changed, to share in the actual life of Christ.
You use that term, good infection.
Yes. It's like catching holiness. We aren't born as sons of God in the fullest sense, he argues. We're initially just creatures made by God. The goal is transformation into something new. His phrase is, every Christian is to become a little Christ.
That famous analogy comes to mind, the one about the statues in the sculptor's workshop.
Right. It captures the wonder of it. This world is a great sculptor shop. We are the statues, and there is a rumor going around the shop that some of us are someday going to come to life.
So the coming to life is that transformation, that sharing in the divine nature.
That's how he presents it. And the path there involves that moral effort we discussed. But it's not about earning it through effort alone. The effort is crucial because it reveals our limitations.
It shows us we can't actually do it perfectly on our own.
Exactly. The struggle leads to that vital moment of surrender, of turning to God and saying effectively, okay, you have to do this in me. I can't. The effort leads to dependence.
And importantly, this transformation, this coming alive, doesn't mean we all become identical spiritual clones, does it?
Not at all. In fact, Lewis argues quite passionately that this entire process vastly increases the importance of the individual person.
How does he square that? Becoming like Christ, but remaining uniquely individual.
He contrasts the eternal nature of the individual soul with the temporary nature of, say, nations or civilizations. He writes something like, if Christianity is true, then the individual soul is incomparably more important because it's everlasting. The life of a whole civilization is just a moment compared to the life of a single person.
So you're not just a means to an end or a cog in some cosmic machine.
Absolutely not. You are the point, in a way, an eternal being destined for a unique relationship with the divine.
And he really emphasizes that uniqueness of the destination too, doesn't he? That it's tailor-made for each person.
He does, and it's one of the most beautiful and, I think, comforting aspects of his vision. He reassures you that reaching this final state, this heaven, doesn't mean losing who you are. It means becoming who you were always meant to be in a way only you can.
How does he picture that?
He uses these wonderful analogies. He suggests your soul has a unique shape, like a hollow, specifically designed to fit a particular swelling in the infinite contours of God, or like a key made to unlock one specific door in that house with many mansions.
So my place in that ultimate reality isn't generic. It's designed for me, and I'm designed for it.
Precisely. His description is so evocative. Your place in heaven will seem to be made for you and you alone, because you are made for it stitch by stitch as a glove is made for a hand.
Wow. That's quite an image to end on. From the everyday annoyance of a quarrel all the way to a unique, eternal destiny perfectly fitted to each individual soul. Lewis certainly built an integrated world.
He really did. It connects the mundane to the magnificent.
Well, if this deep dive into C.S. Lewis's thought has sparked your interest, the best next step is always to go to the source. Pick up Mere Christianity or the Screwtape Letters, or maybe even Brave Observed, and wrestle with his ideas for yourself. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.